Okay, so we were also fortunate enough to have some people submit some questions, and Cory's going to kind of get us cranking here on some of the ones that were already submitted.
Yes, let's do it. All right. First question. What brings you the most joy and fulfillment in your work with organizations?
Throwing it to me. Yeah, people love to ask that question. Is it the sports or what? Like, to me, the two characteristics of hopefully leaders and people and organizations that really motivate, like curiosity and humility. And so if you can temper those, well, I love and take great joy in working with people who have a sense of curiosity, a sense of wonder. How can I learn? How can I grow? They ask a lot of questions. And then the humility to realize they don't know it all. Like, to be able to partner with people like that and to be a partner in that growth, I think that's what brings my life joy and clarifies my work.
What about you?
I think what I have come to appreciate, I got into doing this, I think first and foremost, to try to understand myself better. Or that's where it started, at least. And specifically in the I guess the field of sports, like, well, why didn't I do what I think I probably could have done in athletics? Like, that was the starting point. And once I started to understand myself a little bit better, I think I just finally had the realization of like, man, well, if I left a lot of meat on the bone, how many other people did? And so at this point, whether it's sport, corporate work, it doesn't matter. I think what I'm drawn to are just people who want to be really good at what they do.
Yeah.
Like, there's something about that for me that I'm always going to gravitate to. And I think along with that, like, I don't always connect with everybody, because I think what I realize is, like, I don't think you actually want this as bad as it seems I want it for you.
Yeah.
And so that doesn't always go well with certain people. So there's kind of a certain mindset I feel like that I've come to appreciate. I'm probably going to click well with, but that's it, is when you can find a group of people, an individual, it doesn't matter. When you find people who are really, really motivated to be as good as they can be, regardless of industry, that's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with all that. The only thing I guess an additional angle would be breakthroughs are really fun.
Yeah.
Like, it's really meaningful to be a small puzzle piece in whether it be a person, a team, or an organization that breaks through, and however they define that, whatever that means to them. But when you can be, part of the formula that helps them do that, it's really gratifying.
All right, let's go on to our next question.
Let's get one more, and then we see what we got from the audience.
Okay. How did the relationships with Clemson, Georgia, and Oregon athletics begin? And how many total student athletes have been positively impacted by the partnership with AMPLOS?
That's some big math.
Yeah. Beyond my capabilities. Drew, start with Georgia.
So the Georgia beginning was, it's complicated, right? Everything's complicated. So I would say, I'd probably answer it this way. I did my PhD work at Georgia, and so was a grad assistant there back in the mid 2000s. And so kind of began some relationships there. The current state of the relationship with Georgia really started in 2018. So in 2018, I was doing more and more profiling work, psychological profiling, which is just a kind of a way of, it's a kind of work product where you're trying to really dig deep and better understand the uniqueness of who a person is. And so I reached out to a contact I had at Georgia. I was really not doing very little with them at that time, reached out to find out what they were doing in their football program for profiling. And the answer was nothing. They really weren't doing that. And so that was my way into, I came in and started doing some profiling work with a segment of their football team. And that went really well. And that's what started my relationship with Coach Smart in 2018. And it just became kind of a gradual build.
No, but go back to our accept, challenge, disrupt.
Yeah.
Right. That part of the story to me is so powerful. You almost got beat by Cincinnati.
Well, so I was getting there. I'm getting there.
Okay.
So
I'm
for
ahead of the game.
2018, 2019, 2020, it was primarily that. And then, so we built this relationship, had some trust. So after we beat Cincinnati barely, which is not good news if you're Georgia, no offense to any Bearcats that might be in the room. We barely beat Cincinnati in the Peach Bowl. I had enough, I guess, equity built up in my relationship with Coach Smart at that point. So shortly after that game, I reached out to him and said, hey, there are some things that I feel like I could help you with to really drive this program forward. Would you be interested in talking about it? Really just that. And to his credit, we all literally immediately fires back at me at when could you be here?
Yeah.
And so we did that a day or so later. Yeah. And really to his credit,
The rest is history.
The rest
Two
is history.
natties.
No, but to his credit, as an open-minded leader, just was extremely open to a lot of the ideas I had to do some things different.
Yeah, the part of the story, what Drew showed you, the values, who I am, what I believe, what does it look like? I forgot the thing. That's what he did with Georgia. What January, you and Kirby sat down, it was like, here are the 4 values of Georgia football.
So that would have been January of 21.
Yeah, here's what it means and here's what it looks like. It's been neat to see that come to life. Somewhat. I've been on the other sideline a couple of times. Not as fun.
Well, you talk about Clemson.
So Clemson is interesting. You don't obviously know. My dad played baseball there. I tried to play baseball. Wasn't quite good enough. Came back to do my pre-doctoral internship. Carolyn and I were rolling in the money that time, $17,000. A couple of kids trying to figure out what to do when I graduated, and always wanted to start my practice. And they created a position called the Director of Student Athlete Welfare and Performance. And I really didn't want the job because I couldn't get licensed as a psychologist. But I wanted an opportunity to present a model to Terry Don Phillips that is still the foundation of what we do today. I can still see it drawing on the board in the interview room around building a model for the mental health and well-being of our student athletes and driving the peak performance using psychological mental skills. And Terry Don called me the next day and said, Milt, I'm giving this job to somebody else, and she was much more qualified. But what you presented, we have nobody doing that. Would you be willing to come over, 1 day a week? And just starting the practice and desperate, I was like, what day you want me? I'll be there. So that started. The next year went a day and a half. Coach Swinney got the head coaching job in 2009. And my man Oliver Purnell was trying to get him to hire his sports psychologist that he was using. And Loretto Jackson called me and said, if you want to work with football, you better go meet with Coach Swinney. So I met with him that summer, and he kind of knew me as a guy who helped out. I'd worked with a lot of our players. And I sat down, like, here are the reasons you should hire me. 1, I know this program. 2, I'm a Clemson man. 3, I know what you believe and I buy into your vision. 4, we share the same faith. And here's a list of all the players I've worked with that have gone to the NFL. And we started, that was 2009. And then Cory came on board in 2014 or 15 to help out. Katie Nichols came on board. And that's how that relationship got started.
And then the Ducks, which, by the way, are the #1 team in the country. I don't know if you.
Who cares?
I don't know if you knew that or not.
I don't care.
I just want to see how uncomfortable we can make you.
I just take the runoff from you guys.
Please. No, I'll set you up for the Ducks. Is that cool?
Sure.
So so Oregon's head coach Dan Lanning and I got really close when he was at Georgia. He's an incredible human, and shortly after he got cranking at Oregon, we had some conversations and were able to kind of get a situation to Cory's credit. I mean, it was Cory's gig to win or lose. And Cory went in and did a tremendous job. He's been with Dan since the beginning. I mean, Cory was absolutely essential in helping that program craft its core values, just like we did at Georgia. And yeah, I mean, I feel like you and Dan have been on this journey together. And here you are.
Yeah. It's been fun. I mean, the beginnings of it were, essentially what Dan knew from his experience with Georgia. Like, that's what he saw, so that's what he wanted. I like to think that we've taken that and hopefully done some new things, some different things, just built on sort of the foundation that you had really started us with and kind of made it our own in the process. I think that's part of what I've learned about working with Dan is we're similar in a lot of ways. We're very different in a lot of ways. But the similarities I think we click on, and we find a way to bring sort of a new, fresh take on some of the stuff that we do. He's a very, very fast-paced and innovative guy. He always wants something new. What have you done for me lately? So it puts some good, positive pressure on me to be creative. But I think what's come out of that has been some pretty cool stuff, and hopefully an impactful experience for the guys on the football team. So.
Yeah. The number of student athletes is kind of hard to estimate. I mean, I'm
it is
19 years at Clemson. And
Yeah, I used to track this kind of stuff at Clemson. So to fill in some of the gaps here, when I started with you guys, that was my primary job responsibility. I was at Clemson 4 days a week, working with the entire athletic department essentially, other than football. And it used to be about 100 athletes a year I would meet with, and upwards of 500 appointments.
Yeah, but that's just individuals.
Correct. That's not including teams and that kind of thing. So that was for, years.
Yeah, so for me, 17 years, just football, 150, 200 people in the room each week. Obviously they're turning over every 4 years, and Georgia's the same way.
Yeah, I would say tens of thousands.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
All right.
42% of statistics are made up on the spot. So, Seaver, that's for you.
However, that was not. What else you got?
All right, these are the ones that are coming in from you guys. So I'm not just hanging out on my phone, I promise. Let's go to this as a starting point, because the spirit of today, the 300th episode. As you look back, what insights would you give your younger self ahead of episode 1 about the journey to 300?
One more time.
As you look back, what insights would you give your younger self ahead of episode 1 about the journey to 300?
What you got, Milt?
Yeah, not a lot. If you know me well, it was a spark, a vision, an idea we had, and it's just like, hey, let's get busy doing it. And so probably a continued theme of my life, not just for the podcast, is just a little bit more preparation and planning that we could be more consistent with it and make it more of a priority. I don't think we ever dreamed we'd get to 300. I never thought about it, to be honest.
Yeah.
For 113 countries.
Yeah.
I think I would have taken some bigger swings earlier in the process with guests.
Yeah.
Just going for it.
Yeah, and I think
We could still do that today.
Yes.
Well, I think for me, the
producer.
the behind the scenes of this were
You're the player coach,
sitting
right? You're
me down and going like, "Hey, Cory, we want to start a podcast." And my initial reaction was not unfavorable.
It was not favorable.
But what I
though.
was well aware of,
It was not like, yeah, I'm all in.
well, what I was well aware of was, okay, Milt and Drew are so busy. If we start a podcast, that really means I'm starting a podcast. And 300 episodes later, the podcast, here we are.
Good job, Cory.
Yeah, well, thank you. But I knew that, but I think I probably would have been, number one, just more open to the process from the beginning. But I think early on, I don't know. Go back to what I mentioned a minute ago. Like, if we're going to do something, I want it to be really good.
Yeah.
And so if there was one thing from the start I was not afraid to do, was to take big swings.
Yeah.
So some of those early episodes, it's cool to look back and see, like, I had, probably my favorite author, Ryan Holiday. Some of you guys have probably read some Ryan Holiday books. Like, he was on the podcast in the first year or so.
Yeah.
Like, how in the world did that happen? But I wasn't afraid to do that. No. So I guess I wish I would have done that earlier. I agree with you. I wish, certainly back then we would have given it a little bit more time, like made it a little bit more of a priority.
Would have been nice to have Connor's. I'm looking like what we could have done differently is found Connor earlier and have him drive and get feedback of what's resonating, what's not resonating, how it appears, how it shows up. Like how many years have we run blind? Have no idea how many people are listening to it.
Yeah.
Good. What else you got?
All right. You want to talk about failure, or do you want to give advice?
I think we do both all the time.
Well, this is your own personal failure, or give advice. Let's go with failure. All right. What's a failure you've had? What'd you learn from it?
That Michael Jordan quote is in my mind. I failed over and over again. That's what I'm thinking.
Is this going to lead to something?
I'm looking at my wife and my father-in-law. They're probably thinking something different than I'm thinking. I guess one that just kind of stands out is just professionally is, and some of you may know the story, just assuming trust. When Chad Morris was hired as our offensive coordinator, I met with our quarterbacks each week. I was in the quarterback room each week, knew our quarterbacks really well, and Chad shows up, and I just assumed he would trust me and appreciate me and be thankful for me. It turns out he wasn't. And so we're at a scrimmage one day early in his tenure, and I'm trying to help our quarterback at the time kind of disengage from the last play and go to the next play, and has a bad play during the game. I'm coaching him up, thinking I'm really making a difference, really proud of myself. And Chad Morris starts screaming, like, who's on the sideline? Who wants to be on ESPN? I'm like, ESPN even in here. Me being ignorant, I look at the guy beside me, like, who's he talking about? and of course he's talking about me. And so he goes in the locker room all upset that I was coaching his quarterback. And I heard about it from Woody McCorvey that day. And you probably know me well enough. I went right to Coach Morris and said, hey, I'm really confused. Help me understand. This is what I told you I was doing. And he backpedaled, and we had a couple of interesting turning points. The funny part of the story, how it ended that year, is we got beat by 70 by West Virginia. And he comes on the headphones in the third quarter. It's like, where the hell is Milt when you need him? So we came a long way. But to me, what I learned is I can assume trust. And I know what we're about, and I can assume you can trust me because I know what I do with confidentiality, and I know kind of why I'm there. But I'm reminded over and over again, people, you need to take that time to build that trust. And I can still fall short of that of, hey, just diving right in. It's not giving time people to build that relationship.
Any failures there, Dr. Brannon?
Yeah, certainly.
No. Did y'all?
Yeah.
I heard the first. No, not really.
Where I was going with that was, it's not that it's one specific thing. I would just say working too much in too many periods of time over the years. And, there's that quote we've all heard before about 20, 30, 40 years from now, the only person who will remember that you worked overtime was your family. And of course, there's a time where you got to go hard and grind, and it's that we all know that. But just feeling like, as I look back, would have done a little less of that.
So I don't know anything about that. When are we going to change that?
We're on a podcast.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. Caroline's looking at me because that should have been mine.
We're working on it.
I think the art of what we do is knowing when to lean on your expertise and help solve a problem, when to just sit and listen. And there are times when I've been too quick to solve a problem, and there are times when I maybe don't step in and use the expertise when I should. Like I'm almost too hesitant. I'm waiting to gather too much information. Naturally, I'm a little bit more like introverted and not so quick to act. I'm always taking in, and observing. So finding that balance, there have been plenty of times where, again, I don't know if it's ever a perfect 50-50 balance, right? But certainly been times, plenty of instances where either too quick to act or not quick enough to act. I think that kind of stuff happens every day, to be honest. So.
Good. One more.
All right. I got several more here. I think people ultimately are just interested in, future of AMPLOS, the growth project, for some final thoughts there.
When I think about the future of the growth project, I know that I think some of it relates to taking bigger swings, like you said earlier, and really not seeing any reason why we can't do that. Should have already been doing that. So I'd like to think that we would do more of that going forward. And I don't know who that is necessarily. There's not like a specific person on my mind that I would love to have on here, but I think we'll know it when we think of it, and would like to think that we'll have people that are hard to get. I think it'd be fun. What you got?
Yeah, to me, I just kind of go back to when we started and why we exist, to help people be better and pursue better. And, thankful to all of you and everybody listening that we seem to have stumbled upon something through a lot of years of research and experience that seems to resonate with people. And it's not for everybody, but to me, the future of the growth project, the future of AMPLOS is continue to be relevant in people's lives, to continue to inspire people to be inspired, to give encouragement, to instill hope, to create some healthy disruption. And so using AMPLOS, using the growth project, using 10 for 12, using the resources that we have to help create that and be that partner in that process of growth, that's what continues to motivate me and encourage me.
I think I'd like to see more of a community like this.
Yeah.
I think we're always asking people for feedback.
Yes.
Ideas, what are topics you're interested in, like that kind of thing.
That's a great point.
We get doses of that, small doses of that, but I think more of that. I think more things like this would probably be helpful for that as well. But I think that's really what I'd like to see is a little bit more of a dialogue, an ongoing dialogue between us and our listeners. I think that's only going to make it better and more relevant for everybody in the room and apparently in Kazakhstan.
Yeah.
You're a big hit over there.
You're a big hit. They love me.
They love you. Awesome. Okay. Well, as we kind of wrap up this Q&A portion, again, just as I reflect back, just massive gratitude for what this is and was, and grateful for the way the Growth Project. I mean, it's super gratifying for us. I know Cory and I know y'all both have the same experience where people will just randomly mention something to you about, I listened to your podcast. Yeah. And that might seem like a small thing to whoever's mentioning it, but it's like fuel in the tank for us. Just really appreciate
I was ordering a smoothie bowl here from Southern Pressed a year or two ago. Were you with me?
Yeah.
And I just ordered, and this woman goes, "Excuse me, are you on the Growth Project?" And I said, "Yeah," and said hi. And then I thought about it for a second. I was like, "Hang on, did you know just from my voice?" And she's like, "No, I recognize, the face and then the voice." And I was like, "Man, that was kind of weird," but I took it as a compliment. It was cool.
Awesome. Okay. Well, as we wrap up for today, thank you in a major way, and hope everybody can grab some food.
But I would like to say something.
Oh, what you got?
How long have you worked with me to not know I have something else to say?
Well, then
Connor,
let's take off.
Yeah, Connor, just thank you and thank our team. Our team did a great job of putting this together. And so thankful for all of you who made the effort to be here, to have made such a difference in our lives. And thank you to our listeners. And thank you to you guys. I love the podcast because I learn something from you every time we do it. And so that balance of, hey, let's continue to swing big, but continue to share those ideas. And it continues to inspire me. And so we appreciate you. We would love some feedback. I think it's a great idea. Yeah. And so just thankful for all of you who made the effort. We have lunch and drinks provided and hopefully some time for fellowship. So we appreciate you.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.